Okay, so in the last video, I showed you how to create a stamped header file with Bazel using a couple of rules that I pasted into this build file here. And now what we want to do is have our application use it. So if we go back to running our application, which was this, as we recall. So here's the application running today without that header in it, and so the cow's not saying what we want it to say. So we need to edit this just a little bit and say, hey, when this application is running, I want there to be some data present. And data is Bazel's way of saying, make these resources available at runtime. It puts them into a folder called run files. There's a fancier way to do this run files lookup. In some cases, you may need it. Here, we're not going to use that because it's just complicated. And the data we want comes from tools. Let's see, it was tools, fill template. This is the same thing we were building before in the last video. And because this is in a parent package, we have to use some funny syntax with a double slash here. That's just Bazel's way of saying the root of the repository. Okay, and now that we've done that, we should be able to then read that data. So something like with, let's see, do I remember the syntax for this? With read file, read only as header. And then we wanted to say the header. I think we have to read from that thing, plus some text. And file here is clearly not right. We think it's supposed to be header.txt. And now the part that's a little confusing, I'll show you how we're going to look up the correct path to this thing. Essentially, Bazel always treats things as relative to the repository root. And so relative to the application, we're going to repeat what folder this thing is in. So it's not relative to the directory that this application lives in. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, so I got an error from Bazel. It says that the fill template target is not visible from the app bin target. Bazel has this concept of visibility. The idea is that you don't want to have your repo turn into a spaghetti of dependencies. Instead, you want to be explicit that it was intentional that this header that I built in one package is supposed to be exposed to be reused in other packages in the repo. You could imagine a big monorepo as this project grows. There are several teams working in here. It would be easy for them to produce a graph that they didn't mean to. This system is pretty important later on. Right now, it's kind of in the way. But fortunately, Aspect CLI has a plugin. I encourage you to check out a video about how we can add plugins to it. And so since I used Aspect here, it's offering to fix the visibility attribute. So I'm just going to say, yes, please, and try again. Okay, so with read is not quite the right thing. Excuse me while I learn Python. Read a file. It's apparently supposed to look like, no, that's not quite the one I want. Python with read file. One of these days I'll memorize the syntax. I mean, we all use oh, I think I saw the answer there though. With open. Okay, sorry about my Stack Overflow mishap there. This worked exactly the way we wanted it to. So now the cow printed the header before it told us what it found on the internet. Of course, unstamped is because I ran that command without -- stamp. If I was running a production version of this, I would add that flag. Now the cow says, built at that timestamp. Cool, so we've wired up some code generation, and now we've also wired up Bazel's stamping feature. In the next video, I will show you how formatting and linting works. See you there.